You're Locked On Wild. Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's happening, Wild fans? Welcome in to another post-game here as the Minnesota Wilds come away with a very nifty 3-2 win on the road to improve to 5-1 on the season. And for the Wilds, hey, we got the goal to start it, and the Wilds went pretty much the entire game with a 2-goal lead up until the end when Vancouver was able to chip in a goal that can pretty largely be pointed to being Kevin Fiala's. Kevin Fiala's bad, and so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But main thing, the Wilds get the win and improve to 5-1 on the season, and plenty to unpack that we'll talk about here in the post game before turning that into tomorrow's Locked On Wild episode. Got a couple of things that I want to dive into for the show tomorrow that we saw in tonight's game. And Ian coming in right off the bat. Thanks for hanging out, Ian. And yes, as you allude to, a win is a win, but again, Kirill Kaprizov just kind of there. And, that is becoming a common theme so far this season. And I want to try to avoid, hitting the panic button on it as long as possible because it is it's your star player who just signed a lucrative extension, but it's not trending in the right direction is, I think, a good way to put it. And saw a couple of other Wild media people alluding to the fact that this is probably the worst game of the season for Kirill Kaprizov in what we saw tonight. And he just, anytime he sees the puck, he's drawing extra attention, and it seems like teams are trying to really get shots in at him to try to frustrate him. And so, this continues to be something that he is going to have to figure out and is going to have to fight through. And yes, it is leading to, as Rusty mentions, it's leading to other opportunities for guys on the third and fourth lines that we'll discuss as well. But this is something that Kirill is going to have to find a way to get through because it's not going to stop. He's not going. Teams are all of a sudden not just going to say, well, he's not playing well, so we're just going to leave him alone, and we're going to give him, an opportunity to get himself right. Like they're just going to continue to put attention on him to try to make it so that he never gets going this season. So it's going to be up to Kirill to figure out how to crack the scorecard on any given night. And we saw Matt Zuccarello with a goal tonight. We saw a couple of goals by the defenseman, which was nice to see. We saw just continued excellence by the fourth line. We saw an emergence of a guy who is going to closely mirror what the fourth line has done so far this year in Rem Pitlick, who I thought was great tonight, and made the most of his opportunity. Was able to pick up his first career NHL point in tonight's game, and so it was just. I thought it was just what has really carried this team so far this season is the fourth line just continues to crush, and Rem Pitlick, as I just said, I thought was great, and we continue to get the same things that we expect from the Foligno and Greenway line. I thought Greenway's effort was better tonight. I thought the team's effort overall was better, which is great. Coming off of a game in which the Wild were generally outclassed in every category against Nashville, it was just first and foremost great to see the team get up and have a much better sense of urgency and intensity in tonight's game. So yes, that was very encouraging to see here tonight. As Steve is mentioning, as Ian is mentioning. Greenway was better tonight, and there was a picture that was going around on Twitter today of Dean Evison and Greenway having a one-on-one in practice, and so obviously Greenway knows that he's got to step up his play. And so tonight I thought was a great step in that direction. And there's added um, kind of onus on him to do that with what happened to the lineup tonight with Victor Rask finding the bench and Rem Pitlick finding his spot in the lineup. So Greenway, I think, got the message. Now the question for him is going to be to extend that throughout the next couple of weeks and months so that he can keep that spot in the lineup. I think Rem Pitlick did enough tonight to where now he should be put in until he shows signs of struggle. I think you keep him in on that third line. I thought they looked better, and Pitlick gives you scoring opportunities, um, whereas Victor Rask just doesn't. I'm sorry. So I think Pitlick played himself into a third line role, and very suddenly this bottom six is looking like the best part of this lineup for this Wild team, which is a good problem to have. But at the end of the day, those top guys are going to have to start pulling their end of the bargain very quickly. And I think it's just going to lead to, once we get those top lines going again, it's going to lead to some nice balance um, for this whole lineup. Once Kaprizov, once Fiala gets going, um, then we're going to have a nice balanced um, lineup here over the next few games. Some other comments, as Ian mentioned, Kaprizov just hounded all game. Yeah, he's again, like I said, he's going to have to find a way to fight through that because teams are just going to continue to do it every game. Every game, they're going to take him out of the play. They're going to try to rough him up, frustrate him, get him to take dumb penalties, as he has a couple of times throughout the course of the year so far. So they're going to have to. Kaprizov's going to have to figure that out, and so we'll talk about that a little bit more as the week goes on. But I want to focus more on the guys that got it done tonight and led to this win. Guys like Nico Sturm, as Rusty mentions, who's everybody's second favorite player now. So we'll talk about guys like Nico Sturm, Rem Pitlick, Brandon Duhaime, again helping push the action. Nico Sturm, Nick Bjugstad, his twin. Nick Bjugstad has looked really good so far this season, which is great. He is definitely a contributing member on that fourth line. So we will talk about that in tomorrow's episode as well. Yeah, it was very nearly a goal for Pitlick. So that was great to see. Hey, the Locked On Sharks, the content boys, are making an appearance. Good, well, morning now for me. Good morning, and hope everything's going well in Sharkland, minus the Evander Kane stuff. So, also, yeah, Sturm took the rocket, the Dumba rocket, and lived to tell the tale, which is more than a few people can say. A couple of things that I wanted to just key in on, because it is after midnight now, and I still have tomorrow's episode, well, today's episode to record as well and edit and everything. Penalty kill, I thought looked better. Even though they did give up the power play goal in which Goligoski's stick exploded, and then Foligno gave his stick to Goligoski for the rest of the penalty kill, as basically just sliding around trying to block the puck. I thought that penalty kill looked really good because there were guys giving effort to try to keep Vancouver from getting good shot attempts. The only thing that penalty kill was missing, so we look at, well, yeah, the penalty kill numbers are not good for this team so far, but that penalty kill, you got guys fully engaged the whole time. The only thing that the penalty kill was missing on the one in which they gave up the power play goal was a clear. If they clear even one time in that penalty kill, then they don't give up that power play goal. The second penalty kill right after that looked much better. The Wild cleared a couple of times and did not allow Vancouver to be able to score. The thing that was interesting, I thought, was Vancouver played very much like we did against Nashville. They seemed like they just were slow in the game. And the Wild, by extension, were skating around them and just giving a much better effort, grabbing pucks, and were able to win basically every battle that determined the outcome of this game. As Goose mentions, Talbot was good. I think he did benefit, as we were discussing in texts. I think he benefited from a little bit of rest. I don't know if it was maybe just a little too much early on in the season for him, but I think Talbot, as with Kakinen, I think um, another encouraging thing that I saw in tonight's game was the lack of traffic in front of Talbot, which I think was a credit to the defense doing a better job to be able to keep the net clean in front of Cam. I think that's where some of the issues that Talbot had been dealing with in the early part of the season stemmed from. And so I think that was a step in the right direction here tonight. But yeah, he was great. He had some great saves throughout the night. So that was a nice bounce back for Talbot. Other than that second goal, so that was a good night for Talbot. Content boys, appreciate the support, and yes, we will. We'll put our people in touch, and we'll get something going. Because yeah, we are way overdue for a crossover. So we'll make that happen. And this Wild team now 5-0, 3-0 on the road, which is really good. And um, that number obviously will. I mean, they're not going to go undefeated on the road. Hopefully, they can win more than they lose on the road. That's really all you ask for of a team on the road, is to win more than you lose, and then to just play great at home. And yeah, I thought just a great bounce back effort for the Wild here against Vancouver to pick up the nifty little 3-2 win. And it's on to Seattle on Thursday, so that will be very interesting. Kraken coming off of their first win of the season at home. They won tonight. I think the final score was 4-1. Actually, no, there was a fifth goal scored. 5-1 over the woeful Montreal Canadiens, and so that'll be a tough one, because I think Seattle plays a style that's going to be very frustrating to go up against. But we'll dive into that a little bit more before Thursday. And as I said, with the fact that we still got to fire off an episode, I think I'm going to keep this post game relatively brief, being that it was a West Coast game. So yeah, Wild's nifty little 3-2 win over Vancouver. Some of the things that we'll key in on for Locked On, which will be live in just 2 hours. We'll talk about Rem Pitlick's debut, some of the things that he brought to the lineup. We'll talk about the penalty kill a little bit, as to the numbers being a little misleading. Couple of factors leading to, I think, the Wild having those low penalty kill numbers to start the season. And we'll just talk about continued excellence from the fourth line, third line looking much better here tonight. We'll wrap it all up and recap it for you on Locked On Wild. Thanks for hanging out, Ian. Thanks for hanging out, Rusty, Goose, everybody else, the content boys. Make sure to check out Locked On Wild, as we will have a full recap for you on the 27th, which is today. So keep an eye out for that, and continue to follow along with Locked On Wild for great content every day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.